The Wise Old Owl and the Lost Village. In a faraway land, there was a small village hidden deep within the forest. The villagers were happy and lived peacefully. However, they faced one big problem. Every few months they would lose their way home after traveling to nearby towns. The forest was thick, with towering trees and winding paths. There were no clear signs, and people often got lost while trying to return to the village. The elders of the village had grown tired of people getting lost. They called a meeting in the village square, where all the villagers gathered. The head of the village, an old man with a long white beard, spoke to everyone. "Something must be done about this problem," he said. "We can't keep losing our way home." "We need a solution," the villagers murmured in agreement. Some suggested building a road, while others thought they should put up signs. But the forest was too thick for roads, and signs would easily get covered by plants. Then, a young boy named Ravi, known for being curious and thoughtful, raised his hand. "Why don't we ask the wise old owl for help?" he suggested. The villagers looked at each other, surprised. The wise old owl lived deep in the heart of the forest, high up in a tree. She was known to be very wise and had helped people in the past, but no one had spoken to her in years. The village elder nodded. "That's a good idea, Ravi," he said. "But the owl lives deep in the forest. Who will go and ask for her help?" Ravi, eager to help, volunteered. "I'll go," he said confidently. The villagers admired his bravery and agreed. So, with a small bag of food and water, Ravi set out on his journey to find the wise old owl. He walked through the forest, carefully following the narrow paths, until he reached a part of the forest that felt strange. The trees were taller, and the sounds of birds and animals seemed distant. After hours of walking, Ravi finally saw a large tree that stood out from the rest. High up in its branches, he spotted the wise old owl. "Hello," Ravi called out. "I've come to ask for your help." The owl slowly opened her big round eyes and looked down at the boy. "What brings you here, young one?" she asked in a calm, deep voice. Ravi explained the problem of the village, how people were constantly getting lost in the forest. "We need a way to find our way back home," he said. "Can you help us?" The wise old owl tilted her head thoughtfully. "HMIC. The forest can indeed be confusing, but the solution is not as hard as it seems," she said. Ravi listened closely, eager for the owl's wisdom. "The answer lies within the people themselves," the owl continued. "It's not the forest that confuses them, it's their own minds. When people get scared or frustrated, they lose focus and forget the way. What your village needs is not a road or signs, but a clear mind." Ravi was puzzled. A clear mind. How can we help everyone in the village stay calm and focused, the wise old owl smiled gently. "I will give you 3 lessons to share with your village," she said. "If they learn and practice these lessons, they will never lose their way again." Ravi nodded eagerly, ready to remember every word. The first lesson. The owl began is patience. When people are in a hurry, they often make mistakes. Tell your villagers to walk slowly, to breathe deeply, and to look carefully at their surroundings. The forest will reveal its paths to those who are patient. Ravi repeated the lesson to himself, making sure he wouldn't forget. Patience, walk slowly. The second lesson, the owl continued, is observation. Many people pass through the forest without truly seeing it. They walk with their heads down, thinking about other things. Tell your villagers to observe the trees, the rocks, the streams, and even the animals. The forest leaves clues for those who are observant. Ravi nodded again, understanding the importance of paying attention. Observation. Look closely, the third lesson. The owl said, is trust. Sometimes the forest may seem confusing, and the path ahead might not be clear. But the villagers must trust themselves and trust the forest. Tell them to believe that they will find their way, even when it seems difficult. Doubt only leads to fear. And fear leads to getting lost. Ravi smiled, feeling hopeful. Trust. Believe in the path. The wise old owl flapped her wings and flew down to the branch closer to Ravi. Take these lessons back to your village, she said. If they practice patience, observation, and trust, they will never get lost again. Ravi thanked the owl and quickly began his journey back home, repeating the lessons to himself along the way. When he arrived back in the village, the people were eagerly waiting for him. I've spoken to the wise old owl, Ravi announced. She gave me 3 lessons that will help us find our way in the forest. The villagers gathered around, curious to hear what the owl had said. The first lesson is patience, Ravi explained. When we walk slowly and take our time, we are less likely to get lost. The second lesson is observation. We must look closely at our surroundings, notice the trees, the rocks, and the streams. The forest will guide us if we pay attention. And the third lesson is trust. We must trust ourselves and trust that we will find our way, even when it's hard. The villagers listened carefully and nodded in agreement. They decided to start practicing these lessons right away. In the weeks that followed, the villagers began to walk through the forest with patience, observation, and trust. Slowly but surely they stopped getting lost. They noticed the little details in the forest that helped guide them, and they began to trust that they would always find their way home. The village grew even more peaceful, and the people were no longer afraid of the forest. They thanked Ravi for his bravery and wisdom, and they never forgot the lessons of the wise old owl. From that day on, the village thrived, and no one ever lost their way again. The forest, once a place of confusion, became a place of peace and understanding, all because of patience, observation, and trust. Moral of the story: sometimes the challenges we face are not as complicated as they seem. With patience, careful observation, and trust in ourselves, we can find our way through any difficulty.